Hello my lovely people, welcome back to a new Plan With Me video. My name is Charizze if you're new to the channel, where we get creative together. So it's time for my January 2025 bullet journal. It's my first monthly bullet journal setup in my brand new Lila Journals notebook. I have my 2025 yearly setup already uploaded, so if you haven't seen it yet, you can watch it after this. Wow, are you guys ready for 2025? Okay, let's do this. Some supplies I will be using are watercolors for my illustrations. You can use brush pens or any coloring medium you want to recreate some of the spreads, so feel free to use them. I'll also use colored fine liners and washi tapes later. And as always, I will be listing all my used supplies on the video description. Well, something not new for January is it is vintage theme again. And we're going for a vintage vanity or dresser theme. So we start with our usual procedure by preparing some colors we want to use for our first illustration. And we can always add other colors later. It's just that this way helps me have a smooth filming process and to also create main color palette for the whole setup. You can also refer to the specific names of the colors I'm using on the screen or mix your own to achieve similar shades. I already made my pencil sketch beforehand. There are so many images of vintage dressers on Google that you can use to create your own composition. So here we begin painting the foreground elements such as floral decoration. We are having red and pink flowers and we want to paint them with a light base first. We are using Naples yellow for the red ones and a light consistency of Madder Lake Deep. Then using our small detail brush, we are taking a thick pigment of light oxide and apply it on the center and around each petal of the red flowers. Then we're going to blend them towards the lighter areas. Then we're just doing the same steps to the pink flowers. We can also vary the sizes of our blooms and have some that are facing sideways, upwards, or downwards. We can do this by identifying the light source in our painting, so we use a darker color to shade the side of the flower facing away from the light to create a shadow effect. And only apply lighter tones to the petals directly facing the light source to create highlights. Since our flowers are very small, we don't really need to make them super detailed since they're still gonna look like flowers when we zoom out the view. So we also have a bunch of flowers in a basket on the floor, which I already painted. Then it's time to add the foliage. We paint the stem with thin lines and add leaves with varying sizes and shapes, considering their position relative to each flower. And just like how we did on the flowers, we use different shades of green to indicate light and shadow on the leaves. After that, we can paint the vase. I wanted to match the vintage look. I went with this tiered curvy shapes, but I'm not sure if it looks vintage at all. But it's okay. Our eyes won't focus here anyway later when the whole painting is done. But next, we are painting a bunch of cosmetic products lying around the table, so you can decide whatever you want to put here. We have like makeup, skincare, hair care, fragrance, and other personal care products. We can also put some little organizers, and likewise, they don't need to be super detailed, but just painting the main shapes will do. And once we're done with these little elements, we can now paint the vintage vanity table itself. We start with the mirror. We are using raw umber color. The ornate Baroque style frame always comes to mind in terms of vintage, so that is what we are doing here. There are also simpler designs, but we're just going with something that can be easily identified as vintage aesthetic. So these always have the swirly details, which I started painting on, but I realized I haven't painted the light base color for the whole table, so I went ahead and do that first. And now we need to go a little darker for the details to make them show up. Then we just continue painting the rest of the details for the table using the same consistency of raw umber. Our table still looks quite flat at this point, so we're gonna add washes of raw umber in medium consistency. That is between the consistency of our base and the details, and apply that to the shadowed areas while also keeping some parts light to create dimension. Then we also paint some more ornate details on the drawers and around the legs. I wasn't able to include the part where I added a darker layer to the lines using Van Dyke Brown just to make them look sharper. We still have a few more elements to paint, like this candlestick holder. We are using burnt sienna to paint the column and 5 arms, and the candlesticks using yellow. Next, we are painting the ottomans and baskets on the floor. You can actually paint this from the beginning since they are in the foreground as well, but if you can manage to skip the areas until you can get back to it, then it's fine. So I'm still using burnt sienna for these. It's my most used color, by the way, as you've seen earlier while mixing colors. It's my go-to color when it comes to vintage-inspired paintings, and I think this balances the whole look of our composition. Then it's time to paint our dressing stool with an upholstered fabric that we are painting blue. We paint the whole shape lightly and add some shadows around the lower part with more pigment. We are also adding the crisscross pattern just using the tip of our round brush. Next are the legs. I added a bit of orange to burnt sienna to make it a bit brighter and kind of stand out from the surrounding burnt sienna colors. And then I'm adding the sharp details with burnt umber or dark brown. I also went for the wavy shaped legs to match the legs of the table. Our painting is almost finished. We're just adding some shadows around. We have diluted raw umber around the upper parts and indigo under the table. Then we're gonna blend these two colors on the floor. To complete our cover page is our January title. We're using the fine liner tip of this brown Ohuhu brush pen to write the month in a script font style. Alright, before we do the next one, I wanted to show you some pretty stationery from Lila journals. I was surprised to receive so many washi tapes, and they are so delicate and pretty. Artie also sent me one of her latest journal designs. I mean, this teddy bear design just makes me so happy. I want to snuggle it instead of journal in it. It has a textured fabric cover and lace edges. The paper is thick with 160 GSM and 192 white dotted pages. It also comes with a matching teddy bear enamel bookmark pendant. She also sent me one of her Lily of the Valley notebook covers. I cannot wait to use this in my new daily journal. She's just so stunning. Everything here actually is just so beautiful, and I'm so grateful to be able to try them. And so, we also want one of you to get your hands in one of her beautiful journals. We are giving away one notebook of choice that is currently in stock in her website, lilajournals.com. All you need to do is like this video, subscribe, turn on the bell button, and comment what makes you feel beautiful or handsome. It's open internationally, and the winner will be randomly chosen and announced on December 29th on my community post. Okay, we are continuing with our setup. So the page to the left will be for my calendar, and I decided to use some of the washi tapes like this one with the pearly strings. This is pre-cut, which is nice, so you don't have to cut it manually, and it's also continuous, so you can cut it in any length. So I'm using this to create my calendar grid. It also has dates in it, so I'm putting them as well. The design is really pretty, but I think it would be prettier if the print was a bit more darker so it shows up on the page well. Or maybe it's just my eyes, or my lighting is just so bright. And then I'm also using this large floral washi tape to cover the background. I think it's cherry blossoms. Well, it's not spring yet, but why not? Anyway, wow, that was a quick calendar to make, but that completes this cover page. It's time to move on to the next pages. I wanted to use the pearly strings again, but I was thinking maybe it will look good with a background color. So I was thinking of an old rose colored border by mixing Madder Lake Deep and Van Dyke Brown with lots of water, and started the painting with a light consistency, but when I added the strings, it wasn't what I imagined. But I still pushed through and see how it looks when it's done. However, at this point, it's still not giving, you know. so I thought maybe I should make the border a bit darker, and I did just that by using a plum colored brush pen. I wasn't able to film it, but it looks tricky. So I decided to do something else on the next spread using this pink rose ribbed lace washi tape on the top and bottom of the spread. And I ended up gluing the previous spread and just go with it with no hard feelings. It's just not it. It's just not it. And then I will be using these paper frames and sticker from Paper Monogatari by Anna of Journal Away, and arranged them to create a layout for my goals and focus, and wrote the titles accordingly. I have an interactive habit tracker in mind with a familiar idea, so it's not so new because I've done it before. We will be using a separate sheet of paper. It's just 120 GSM paper, and we're gonna paint 4 perfume bottles. I'm just starting with a thinner paper for now so it won't get chunky by April. I like the idea of having a chunky journal, but sometimes I feel like the spine is going to break. So yeah, so you can play around with different designs here as long as a tracker can fit, but also making sure that the heights are just within the white space, have enough to write the habit tracker title, and doesn't overlap the washi tape above. Okay, let's do the first bottle. We start by filling up the liquid or the fragrance with the old rose mix we used earlier. I guess we can still use that here. Our bottles are made of glass, so we paint a glass effect around the fragrance by mixing Van Dyke Brown and a little bit of Payne's Gray and create subtle shadows and dark lines to form the shape and the base of the bottle. The next thing we're doing is to paint the vintage style label on the center with burnt sienna for the frame and off-white on the middle. Then we paint the brass neck with raw umber. The round shape on top is the glass stopper, so we're also using the colors we used for the glass container. Then we have like a crown surrounding the stopper using the raw umber again. Now we're just going back to add dimension to our bottle by adding more darker shades around the edges and also creating texture. I also darkened the shadows on the glass to match the shading on the fragrance. So I'm basically doing the same technique for the rest of the bottles, but I just varied the shapes and sizes. Like we have tall rectangular bottle, round and short, and square with the same height as the first one. I also varied the shapes of the labels and stoppers, just like customizing my own perfume bottle. Fun fact about me, I used to not like perfumes at all because when I was a kid, my nose was so sensitive. When I smell strong fragrance, it just reminds me of the smell of the buses or public air-conditioned vehicles that use air fresheners. I always get nauseous. It triggers motion sickness. And it's so funny because every time we go on a long ride on the road, I would always check first if there is any refreshener. It's the Christmas tree shaped thingy that is hanged on the rear view mirror. So because of that, I disliked traveling by land when I was a kid until I went to college. I always bring disposable bags with me. I think they would remember me as the girl who vomits on the bus or any land-based vehicle. I only survive on airplanes because there's less motion. But now I also learned that not all perfumes are the same. I slowly started liking mild, sweet scents and also really training my nose until it got used to perfumes. My stomach is also getting stronger, so hallelujah! But back to our setup, when our paintings are done, we can now cut them individually and draw the trackers on the back. Like I said earlier, as long as a tracker fit, so the spaces doesn't have to be matching with the dot grid measurement on the notebook, then we are also writing the habits I want to track on the labels. I find that there are habits that I have been consistent with last year, like Bible reading, so I won't be including it here since I only track a specific habit to improve and be consistent with. Next, we're going to cut the part where we want to insert these using an X-Acto knife. Also, make sure to put a cutting board behind the page. Then we're going to attach these pages together with a double-sided tape. I also wanted to paint a subtle background color and shadows around the cuts before placing the perfume cutouts or trackers. And lastly is the habit trackers title above. Alright, we are done with my monthly planning and interactive habit tracker. Let's flip to the next pages again. I already cut 7 pages into vertical Dutch doors. But we're also gonna be making tabs here using washi tapes. We will be making 6 tabs only, and we're gonna leave the middle Dutch door as is because these spreads will be used for 2 different purposes. So I'm supposed to have the first tab a bit higher, but I marked the placement incorrectly. But it's okay, the middle Dutch door will make up for it. So each tab is 9 dot spaces long and 2 dot spaces wide. Then we decorate them with different washi tape designs. So this middle Dutch door will have a full-length washi tape and will also serve as a divider. The spreads to the left will be for my sermon notes or ministry notes. I mentioned before that I will be switching the devotional plan to sermon notes because God showed me to be planted in one specific church. For 2 years, I've been wandering from church to church. It's just been chaotic actually, and I didn't understand the principle of being planted before until I read about First Chronicles 17:9, I think that is the verse. So that is the direction I took because it's exactly the verse that I read after watching the topic that has been spoken about being firmly planted on that specific church that I'm planted in now, which is called Fivefold Church. And that is where he wants me to stay and grow and hear the Rhema word and not just ingest wherever I want or how I want. So I'll go with what he wants because it's always the best. It's amazing though because I thought that I should go to the church in my location or within my country, but Fivefold Church is in LA, California. Anyway, I will be writing some key teachings or summary with scriptures. I might also jot down some new testimonies from people or my own testimony and miracles that took place. Yes, miracles happen here if you want to check out Fivefold Church. Okay, then I'll also have a very simple weekly Dutch door layout with horizontal lines for the writing spaces. Then we're also writing weekly tasks title on the other side. When all the functional parts are done, it is time to paint the illustrations. So on the left will be images of purse, lipstick, and pearl necklace with floral decorations around. Then on the right side will be another vintage mirror, comb, ribbon, and flower on a vase. We're only painting on the spaces that are not covered by the Dutch door pages, and they're gonna look like cropped pictures. And painting them in a bigger scale makes it easier than having to fit every element in the space. So this is the part where I'm almost done with the setup when one of my studio lights gave up. And if you also have been tuning in here and on my Instagram stories, I've been sharing a lot of testimonies of people from the church where I'm planted in. And if you also remember me sharing about spiritual war in my previous video, so I am suddenly experiencing many technical difficulties, like the other day while I was editing a video of someone testifying of getting healed from skin cancer. Prior to sharing it on my Instagram stories, my phone just fell off the ground and the screen protector got smashed. And then the next day, which is supposed to be the last day of filming this, and I really wanted to finish it already so I can upload it just in time this Sunday, but my studio light just suddenly dimmed until it's not working anymore. But praise God because I have other sources of light here but just not as bright as the one I've been using. And I had to use two sources, my table lamp and a small ring light. Though it's still not as bright combined. It looks like it on the screen because I also adjusted the brightness settings, but my surroundings are a bit darker at this point, and I had to squint a lot of times just to see what I'm doing clearly. And also please bear with the grainy resolution here. And guess what happened the following day? My phone's lightning cable is also suddenly not working. I'm like, really? There was only 20% battery left, but good thing there is a gadget store near me, so I had to buy a new one. These things that happened just really invited me to respond differently about the situations, and these equipments or gadgets are my means to share testimonies. Like without the studio light, I couldn't work at night to produce my YouTube videos where I also sometimes share my own testimonies, and then my phone and my charger. I've never experienced this kind of technical problems like in 3 consecutive days. But get behind me, Satan. Praise God, I was able to finish this whole setup on time. My phone is fine, and the new studio lights are on the way. Although I had to spend money, bro, they're expensive, but God provides, and He actually did when I received an $80 order in my shop just 4 hours after I ordered the new lights. And there's extra left. This is how faithful God is. He always backs us up when we also partner with Him, and I know it's gonna be worth it to continue sharing His work and the testimonies. I'm sharing this because spiritual war is real. The more anointed the ministry you're planted in, the more the enemy is trying to stop to spread the news because they don't want people to know where they can be casted out. Yes, you heard that right. They are scared that people will know. They are. I was scrutinizing it at first, but I saw the good fruits even in my life. So yeah. I was trying to work on the painting as quick as I can because obviously something stole my time because of the studio lights. It was Friday night when I finished filming everything, and it also takes time to edit the raw footages and to write my voiceover or the things I need to say, which takes me another 3 days to do. Plus, I have other obligations and a small business, so if this video goes live on Sunday on schedule, well, it could only be God. Alright, we are now down to the final spread we're making in this setup. So we painted a simple but elegant triptych mirror that has 3 panels rather than the standard single frame. We have the largest piece on the middle and 2 smaller ones on the same size on the sides. I was thinking of adding some cosmetic products under it, although I know it's gonna look nice, but I'm fine with the simplicity of this last spread. So I'm gonna be writing some monthly review here, like my small wins, gratitude, lessons, and areas for improvement. Then we will cover the blank pages behind with this large Sakura washi tape again from Lila Journals. And then we cut all the white spaces around the mirror to reveal the floral wallpaper. Instead of the review title, I decided to put 2 titles, which is Reflect and Refine. The left side questions are more of a reflection, and the right side are for refinement. I just wrote these on a separate paper, cut them, and glued on top of the respective questions. And that's finally everything for my January 2025 bullet journal. We are almost at the end of this video, so let's look back on all the spreads we made in a flip through. This whole setup will be available soon on my shop as a digital or printable bullet journal theme. I'll try to add it before the new year, so make sure to join my email list if you haven't already. I really hope you enjoyed this plan with me video. I love how this setup turned out, And I hope you found some new ideas and creative inspiration for your own January 2025 journal or planner setup. Remember to join the giveaway by following the steps I mentioned earlier to win a Lila Journals notebook. Have fun bullet journaling, and I wish you a very Merry Christmas, a lovely rest of the year, and an amazing New Year. Thank you so much for your time watching. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon in my next video. I love you all. Bye.